Okay, so we are recording. Clara, do you want to start, or Aaron, do you want to start sharing the screen?
Let me just welcome everybody and ask people if they're not talking to mute themselves, because I can hear some people talking in the background. So if you're not talking, please mute yourself. Thank you. And welcome to the third meeting, Design Review Committee meeting for Griggs Park. Aaron, we have a really full agenda. So welcome everybody, and I'm going to let Aaron has a great presentation to show us. And so why don't we begin? Aaron, and oh, Millie, do you want to also say hello and introduce yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, welcome everyone to our third Design Review Committee meeting. My name is Millie Pradhan, Director of Parks and Open Space, and joined with me here today is Aaron Kramer, our landscape architect. And also we have joined here today Sandra Brock from Niche Engineering, and they are our consultant for the drainage and stormwater review for the project, and they are highly skilled and knowledgeable and highly experienced in in Boston, greater Boston area and throughout the country. So we're very excited to have her join us, and she'll be sharing some of their findings on drainage later on in the presentation. So Aaron, if you don't mind moving the slides to the agenda. So I'll just briefly talk through the agenda. We're gonna, touch briefly on introducing the project again, briefly touch on what the goals and priorities of the project are, the project timelines. Then Aaron will also walk through what we've heard so far during, our past two DRC meetings and our public survey. And he'll do a brief recap on existing conditions. Then we're gonna dive into the main part of the meeting today, where we're going to be looking at several concepts for different pathways and entrances, play area, layout, natural landscape, drainage, amenities, and briefly touch on where we stand with Green Dog. So within each of these subcategories of concepts, you'll see that Aaron will present multiple options. So the way we're going to hold the meeting is that in each of the options at the end, we're going to pause. We're going to first take comments from DRC members, and we are going to be opening it to the members of public. Then the members of DRC will recommend and vote on one of each options. So we'll have to do that for each of these subcategories, as I mentioned, and because our time is limited, we'll keep a watch on times, but roughly we'll have around 20 to 22 minutes, 20 minutes or so for each of these categories. So Aaron, do you want to move on to the goals slide? And you will see that some of the slides from last time, about the design review process and, capital improvement plan process, we've left here, but we won't be going through those today. But if you're interested to learn more, feel free to go back to the recording of DRC meeting number 2. So just a quick reminder here on what the project goals and priorities are. Our main priority for the project is ensure that, the whole entire park will be universally accessible, making sure that everything is up to code, all the entries are up to code and accessible, pathways are accessible, and also ensuring that our playground is safe and accessible, and, making sure that we have play equipment for all ages. We've heard a lot at this point that the natural character, or the fact that we have wetland in the middle is what makes this park special, right? So we really want to celebrate the natural character of the park and ensure that the wetland is conserved, and think about what the next generation of plants, shade trees and plants looks like. And we've also heard that like drainage is a main priority for the park. So we really want to look into improving the existing drainage system. And think about like how we want to we can mitigate the flooding and increase the resiliency, and which is where our consultant niche engineering is going to bring a lot of experience and knowledge. And we also want to think about what the upgrading the existing amenities, and thinking about how the proposed amenities and furnishings can provide flexibility and for essentially all the park users. So with that, I'm going to hand over to Erin. Again, Erin has done an amazing job putting together this presentation, and we have quite a lot to cover today.
Yep. Before I start, Amelia, it looks like Naomi has her hand raised.
Naomi, did you want to make a brief comment? Someone might have to make her a co-host. And it'll be great if we can, if you could like keep the comment like super brief, as we do have a lot to get into, and keep your, it'll be great if the comments, the rest of the comments could be saved for later on as well.
Yes, of course. Thank you so much for recognizing me. Naomi Schweitzer, a Griggs neighbor. It's just a process question. You were just going really fast. So I just want to make sure I heard you right, that tonight is the night that the committee is voting on one of the options, and that will be the option that is then goes into construction. And after tonight, there's no further time for comment. Okay, I just want to be really clear about what's happening. Okay.
It's this, after this, like there's still more, and which is what exactly, this is the page where Erin will talk a little bit more about that.
Yep.
Okay.
So we're at meeting 3. We're looking at programming and layout concepts. So to your question about voting on a final comment, what it is I've assembled a bunch of kit of parts based on each theme. So there is no one unified plan in this presentation. So what I'm looking for is feedback and ideally direction to whittle down these like what could effectively be 20 plans into like 1 or 2 plans I could present at the next meeting for further refinement and comment that would then go on to probably a meeting after that. So we're actually aiming for the final design meeting to be early next year, January 8th. The next meeting will be on October 28th, and that's when we'll take the information from this meeting and refine it into a more comprehensive plan for the park. Looking at then, because we're looking at January for our last meeting, taking that final one from January 8th to in the spring of 2026 to Park and Recreation Commission, and then from there moving on to construction drawings through the spring and summer of next year. Ideally, we would like to go out to bid and award probably next fall, early next winter, so that we have all the contracts in place, so that the minute the 2027 construction season starts, they can put their shovels in the ground. So very, very brief overview. For meeting 1, we heard that people really like the park the way it is. They value the openness and naturalistic character. The willow trees are very important. Accessibility is important. Drainage is a problem in the park. There are the Green Dog program is well used and loved, but there are some conflicts between dogs and other park users, especially in the playground area. People would like to see shade in the playground. The playground is mostly used by younger children, and the loop path is very well used. From the survey, we had 443 responses in a 4-week period. Most survey respondents walked to Griggs, with 82% of all participants within walking distance, or saying that they walked to Griggs, so they're within walking distance. 219 out of 143 respondents do not have kids, so about half of the people that use Griggs Park that responded to the survey do not have children with them. The most popular type of play equipment were the swings and the net climber. A lot of people really wanted to see a natural looking playground. Many comments wanted to keep the park natural and the same. And there was some conflicts noted between kids and dogs in the survey results. In regards to issues, when we had a question about what is your #1 issue with the park, drainage was the #1 concern. Meeting number 2, kind of you'll see a similar theme. People really like the park the way it is. There are conflicts between dogs and children, especially in the playground area. People would like to see no additional fencing in the park. There was a desire among some people to look at potentially adding a boardwalk or wetland interaction to the park. people were opposed to the idea of a 9-foot path anywhere in the park. Users of the play equipment during the daytime include several daycares that bring large numbers of small children to the playground, and many people want to see a manageable or natural play for the playground. So as a very brief recap, existing conditions, I'm going to go through these really quick. Griggs Park is kind of close to the Brandon Hall and BTAC branch station, pretty close to Coolidge Corner. Existing conditions, this is just here if anybody wants to go back to it. Same with, we did an inventory of all the trees, 46 trees in the park that were not in the central wetland. We are getting the central wetland surveyed. It should be done next month, so we'll have information for the rest of the trees and the grading in that area. Pathway conditions, there's some settling, the path is narrow, 2 of the entries are non-compliant. Play equipment is at the end of its useful life. And okay, with that very, very brief recap so that we have time to talk about the actual meat of the potatoes, we're going to break down this presentation into 5 areas. The first one we're going to look at is pathways, and our goal is to provide universally accessible entrances and pathways. Second thing that we'll be looking at is playground. We're not going to look at play equipment tonight. We are only going to be looking at playground layout. At the next meeting, we will present play equipment options. Number 3 is the natural landscape, so the wetland and the trees. Number 4, we'll have Niche talk about drainage and also about the findings from the borings that we had done of the park. And 5 is the remaining amenities, so seating and maybe some adult fitness areas. We will go over like actual furniture selection at a future meeting. So loop path analysis. As you can see, the 2 entrances of Griggs Road are not currently accessible. They are over the maximum slope allowed for a walk for handicap accessibility. There is a subsettling at the drainage pipe on the path, and that is also not accessible. And the existing path is 5 feet wide. Things that we would like to look at is address the pathway width and explore opportunities to interact with the wetland. Play area. Play area is the 3rd most popular activity at Griggs Park. Community wants to see a natural looking playground. Swings and deck climber are very popular. There are conflicts between dogs and children in the play area, and we're looking at ways to potentially address that through design, and people would like to see shade. Number 3, natural landscape. People value the openness and naturalistic character of the park. Willow trees are very important. They would like to be preserved. Preserve the moments of a discovery, how the central wetland kind of screens your view. So as you're walking along the loop path, you'll get a different experience throughout the park. Enhance the natural features of the park, so that'd be the plantings and the central wetland, and address conflicts with dogs interacting with the wetland. So quick subsurface, we'll go into this later when we're doing the concepts with Niche, but the big thing is that the central pipe is working as designed, which is good news for us, which means we don't have to disrupt it. And part of the reason that we have so many drainage issues is the laterals are non-functioning, and those are the parts that actually drain the lawn outside of the central wetland in the park. Amenities, passive recreation is big, so provide passive recreation for people of all ages, potentially explore fitness equipment and other adult recreational activities, improve seating throughout the park. And there was one other big one that's not in this little highlight is to the drinking fountain location has been addressed as anything that people would like to see moved away from the playground. So with that really brief overview, let's get started on pathways. So pathway goals, one of the things that we'll be looking at is, as part of this renovation, is repaving the path and really looking at those 2 inaccessible entrances. The main entrance, I won't be showing concepts tonight because it's quite easy to make it accessible through some regrading, and it basically stays in its main location. We will be exploring that other entrance off of Griggs Road. And we'll also be looking at path width. So one of the things I noticed on site analysis and also through visiting the site is the path is currently 5 feet wide. And due to the number of people that use the park, there are often times where it's hard to pass. And as a result, there is a large amount of like cow pathing on the sides of the path. So this is just a plan showing what the existing path is. We're proposing parks would like to see a 6-foot path, which I have shown here in yellow. but I also am showing what a 7-foot and 8-foot path would look like in plan and also in section. This is just showing you what each path width gets you. So as you can see with the 5-foot wide path, it is pretty tight. People generally walk about 6 to 8 inches in from the edge of a path. So you can kind of take that as a mental like subtraction as people are walking along the path. 6 feet is the standard width of a sidewalk. It gives people an opportunity to pass without being too wide. As you can see, the 7-foot would give you a little bit more room, more generous, people with strollers or bikes. 8-foot wide, which is the current main entrance path as you're coming off of Griggs Road, that would give you a lot of room, but it is quite a wide path. So I think this is the first thing we'd like discussion on. So we're going to start with the design review committee and then open it up to the public regarding path width.
Should we raise our
So
hand?
people who want to discuss, this is for the discussion of the people who are on the design review committee, and they can raise their hands if they have input they'd like to give specifically for the path width. Is that correct, Erin? Is that what you'd like now?
That is correct. We're just going to do it one by one. So right now we're only talking about path width.
Raise hand.
Okay, so Carol has her hand up and Teresa, so I'm gonna go as I see the hands. We'll start with Carol, then we'll go Teresa and then Patricia. So Carol, you want to start?
Sure. My question has to do with whether the 6-foot wide path gives good access for people in wheelchairs. If there are people in wheelchairs, say, going in both directions, 6 foot doesn't look wide enough to me. I personally think a 7-foot wide path would probably service more of the people using the park.
So I will say for accessibility minimums, 5 foot is the minimum to turn a wheelchair around. You can run a path narrower than that. They should be able to pass, but you were correct. It would be quite tight for 2 wheelchairs to go in opposite directions.
But it would still be possible that one wheelchair would not have to, I mean, they're not gonna go past each other very quickly, Carol, but they could pass each other without going on the lawn.
Yep.
If you gave them 6 feet.
Correct.
Did the disability committee for the town look at this and have any comments about whether they felt it was wide enough?
They have not.
But it's also the, you know, the Architectural Area Access Board, that is their guideline.
Yep.
Is 6 feet is more than required, so.
Yep. And that's also the standard width of a public sidewalk.
And Carol, one thing people were very concerned about making the path too wide to disrupt sort of the bucolic feel of it.
I understand that. I understand that. Yes.
Teresa?
Yes, I was just going to say the second point that you actually just made, Clara, is that I think it would be nice to expand to the 6 feet, which it sounds like Erin is recommending, but not much more than that in order to disrupt all the green space that's already there. And we don't want to make too much pavement in this park. So I think 6 feet does sound like a good median, so long as you think that meets our accessibility demands and will fulfill the needs of all the people walking around the park.
Thanks, Teresa. Patricia Roberts? Patricia, you're muted, so we can't hear you.
Okay, I think seconding what's been said, 6 feet seems plenty wide enough, especially because that's the width of sidewalks. And if the Architectural Review Committee or whatever that organization is thinks it's fine, I don't think we should take away any more green space than that.
Thank you, Patricia. So I'm just looking quickly because I can't see everybody at once. Those are all the hands that I can see that are raised. I do.
Clara, there's a member of public. with a hand raised. Do we want to take any public comments here, Clara? Before we
Sure, I
vote?
would, oh, I see Shushma Popana is that the person you're referring to with her hand raised?
Yes, yes.
Yes, I would just ask everyone to please be brief because we have so much to cover, but we are totally interested in what everybody has to say, so go ahead. Shushma.
Oh, I need to just make you a co-host. Sorry, give me just a second. Okay, you should be able to unmute yourself. Please state your name and address.
Hi, my name is Sushma Bapana. I'm at 12 Griggs Terrace on the park. And I don't mean to take up time. I thought that this was for public comment right now, but someone made the comment that the path was too narrow. I'm at the park a lot, and I guess I don't see the problem with if you had to go on the grassy area. I'm not sure, is there some sort of environmental problem with that? Just go a little bit off of the path. And I also agree that 6 feet is probably adequate. I don't think I've ever really seen, of course, I would want everyone to be comfortable, but I don't think I've ever seen 2 wheelchairs passing each other, or at least, not very frequently. So I think that, to give up green space for the very, very, very rare occasion, I think is probably not necessary in my opinion. Thank you.
So just to respond in terms of, is there a issue with the path being too narrow? Now, I think if people walk off the path on a regular basis, you can get these worn pattern. I can think of in front of the Florida Rough and Ridley on Harvard Street, they kept having to widen the sidewalk because the grass just got trampled completely. I think we're just trying to make it wide enough so people don't consistently walk on the grass. Is that true, Aaron? Do you agree with that statement?
Yes, and there is evidence of, as we called it, cow pathing on several places in the park where you can see where enough people have walked off the path that the soil's compacted, the edge of the asphalt is above the lawn, and the grass is missing.
Thanks. Thank you. Karen? Oh, I guess Karen Henley is the next person.
Yes, Karen, I just made you a co-host.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to say briefly, I also I would lean towards the 6-foot path and not anything wider than that. And even the 5-foot path would be adequate, but it seems like a 6-foot path would be kind of the maximum that I would want to keep as much green space as possible. Thank you.
Thanks, Karen. The next, I see a committee member who's raised their hand, so maybe we'll jump to Zora.
Mhm.
Hi, my name is Zora Kikinis. I also live, I'm a neighbor to Griggs Park. I was originally against making the path wider, but then after we had the discussion, I've been more observant about what's going on in the park along the path, and I definitely would also be inclined to have it wider. I do notice that people have problems passing by, and someone also mentioned that children like to bike on this path, which I think it's great, but then it is getting a little bit too narrow. In terms of cow pass, I think we still will have it. I don't think so. It depends on how wide the pass will be. I think if people like to jog, and it's just much easier to jog on the grass. And that's what I think that the cow pass really comes into. But it is okay with me. I don't mind that. Unless we can put some wood chips or so as a jogger track or something like this.
Thanks, Zora. Then we have Svetlana. Okay, I think Mila, you're gonna have to make her.
Svetlana, you should be able to unmute yourself now.
Hi, I'm a neighbor. I live next to Griggs Park, and just a question, how you will address the issue that people are walking on the road instead of in the park? I thought it's like the path is very narrow. That's why people prefer to walk on the Griggs Terrace Road, where the cars are going.
So the roadway is not part of the purview of either the design review committee or even the parks. That would have to be something that had to, I believe, go to transportation.
Right, but I thought that the path is way too narrow. That's why people prefer to go on the road.
No, I was saying that they like to, the path is narrow, so people are walking in the grass adjacent to it to pass people on the park, within the park.
Okay, what I'm trying to say, maybe you should make it even bigger, like than the 6 feet.
Svetlana, thank you for your comment. We're going to go to the next person who has their hand raised, Naomi Schweitzer.
Thank you. Naomi Schweitzer again, a neighbor around Griggs Park. I support keeping the path as narrow as possible and still making it accessible so that we maximize the green space in the park. Dirt is good. I'm okay with cow paths. That's part of what I think so many people love about the park is that it is natural and we don't want to see it paved over, and paving is also not necessarily great for drainage. Widening it a little bit might be okay, but wanting to, keep it as narrow as possible and really keep the natural feel to the park. And I think just to address the comment from the person right before, why people walk on the street, from what I've heard from neighbors who like to walk loops on the road instead of in the park, it is because of shade. And there is more shade on the road than there is on the path. And so that's really important for a lot of people for sun protection and heat regulation. And I know many people have commented on, wanting to maintain the areas of the park that have shade and more shade in the playground. But it's probably not possible to shade the entire path. And I think that's why a lot of people end up walking in the road. Thank you.
Thanks, Naomi, for telling us that. So Aaron, let me ask you, I think everybody who raised their hand to discuss path width has been recognized and had a chance to speak. Would you like us to, Aaron, vote on path width now so we can then go on to the next? This is Aaron's kit of parts. So this is the first part. So to move things along, I'd like to, since I heard, I think, a fair amount of support, I'd like to make a motion that the path width be 6 feet wide. There are a few places where it's a little wider now, where you enter the park and so we're not going to narrow it where we're going to keep its existing width, except for where it's 5 feet or less, we're going to increase it to 6 feet wide. That's my proposal. And I would like to take a voice vote from people on the committee. So I'm going to call people's names. So the motion is for a 6-foot path to replace the 5-foot path. So as I call your name, will you vote? Yeah.
Do you need a second on that motion?
Yes, I do. Thank you. Do we
I'll
have a
second it.
second on?
Teresa will second it. Thank you.
Thank you, Teresa. Thank you for pointing that out. Okay, so the motion for a 6-foot path has been made and seconded. So I'm going to call people's name in no particular order. Teresa Mooney,
Yes.
Carol Caro,
Yes.
Jane Flanagan.
Yes.
Is Patricia Roberts here? Oh, yeah, yes, she is. Patricia Roberts?
Yes.
Thank you. Zora Kikinis?
Yes.
Thank you. I vote yes, and Stephanie Hasaya, is she here?
I don't think Stephanie is here.
Okay, I didn't see her on the in the square. Okay, so it's unanimous of the 6 members who are attending. Thank you all. And so, Aaron, do you want to go to the next part? You want to? Okay.
The next one, and this one could be a vote of you don't want any of these options, just so as people are looking at me presenting this, that is also an option for this. There was a lot of talk in the last meetings about looking at ways to maybe interact with the wetlands. There was even talk of a boardwalk. So I looked at places throughout the park where you could either do wetlands or kind of overlooks. So this is kind of an overview plan showing all of them. The option kind of on the northern side of the park for a short boardwalk, kind of in the central part for a longer boardwalk that goes through more of the land, and then 2 kind of areas where the land is a little more depressed, where you could probably get in like a little overlook, where it's almost like a deck or something that you would look at and sit and look at the wetland. So here's the 2 precedent images. These are the existing boardwalk. The A is the existing boardwalk at Amory Woods that is being replaced, but we propose something similar. Because it's so low, you would not need guardrails, so it would just be kind of a tow rail wooden boardwalk. The option for overlook, this is a little more just kind of showing it'd be like a low deck similar to that with areas for seating and maybe some interpretive signage. So the short boardwalk, you can see here I took a camera that shows kind of where you would look through. You can see it goes it skirts the edge of the wetland. It right now is a very clear sight path. The long boardwalk is these next 2 photos where you can see there's also a clear shot through the wetland where you wouldn't be impacting trees. But as you can see, it goes more through the middle of the wetland. Overlook, there's first idea for an overlook is over kind of on the play equipment side. There's this natural depression that's currently filled with a circle of rocks. And then the other idea for an overlook would be looking opposite that on the other side on Griggs, where you can see there's a lot of cobble edge and there's also kind of a more depressed area where there's some natural wetland vegetation. So my question I'm now opening this for comment, but the question would be like, is there any of these ideas that we would like to explore further in a subsequent meeting, or if we even want to explore this further? And with that, I leave it open to questions and comments.
Aaron, I just want to ask you one question on the boardwalk. The one end of the boardwalk B, does not go.
I forgot to color it. There would be a path connecting it.
Okay, I just want that clarified. So they go from one path to the other.
Correct.
Thank you. So, design review committee people, do we see hands raised for people who would like to discuss this? Okay, great. Now I see. Okay, I'm going to go to the committee members first, and I'm going to go back. But Patricia Roberts, would you like to go, please?
Yeah, I just have a question. So the pathways leading to these boardwalks, what would that consist of? Is that taking away more green space, or is it just assumed that people would just kind of walk across the grass to these boardwalks and overlooks?
So
go ahead.
So because it is a feature and a pathway, it has to be an accessible surface, and grass unfortunately is not an accessible surface. So it would have to be either some kind of asphalt or stone dust or some other material that has a low enough rolling resistance for people using either strollers or wheelchairs.
Would stone dust be allowed so it doesn't, so it's different than the perimeter asphalt path?
I think we could look at using stone dust or some other surface that is not, so it's just not like asphalt leading right into the wetlands, which I think wouldn't be the right character.
So we could have stone dust leading to these boardwalks that go through the wetland. But they would have to be accessible because you have to get people to the boardwalk who are in a wheelchair.
Yeah, so to me, it seems like it's just kind of slicing up what's a very small park to begin with. So I would be opposed to any of them.
Thank you, Patricia. So Zora, do you have a comment?
So yeah, I think I would have to think more about it, especially I kind of like the boardwalk, but I am not so happy about the access. I think that would interfere that really would take too much from the park, from the natural part of the park. I was wondering about the overlook. Would there be kind of more planting? Because right now, even if there's an overlook, there's not so much to see.
Yeah. I will say there's generally when I took those photos was actually when they come in and cut back some of the plants. So usually there's a little more vegetation, especially in C2 than looks on those photos. I just happened to unfortunately time my picture taking. But yeah, I think as part of the next meeting, we would look at probably enhancing the wetland with more native plantings as part of the project. So there would be more plantings to look at.
So there will be more planting and more color
Yes, more
to have
planting.
more interest.
Yep. And also provide more habitat.
And also the path to the overlook would be stone dust or something like this, not just grass.
That is correct.
So
I think if it would be if it would be just done grass and then maybe at the end a bench, I think I might like it more.
Zora, will you say that again, what you like more?
So I think if the overlook might be nice with a bench or so, but I just worry about the access path. If that would be possible to have it in grass, I think it would be great. If it's a stone dust or asphalt, then I'm not so I would not be so excited about it.
Thank you. Carol.
Okay, I think I'm very excited about this concept of these overlooks and the boardwalk. I think, I've always been frustrated when I've been at the park that I would love to see what's going on inside, and this would give the option. I do have a question about something Aaron said when he mentioned the boardwalks, that there would be no edge on the boardwalk.
No railing.
No railing.
I mean, but would it be like the railing that you show in the picture from Hall's Pond?
Correct. So it'd be a little toe thing. So if somebody was there in a stroller, the stroller would not go off the edge.
Yeah, that's good. Okay. Otherwise, I'm very much in favor of. I'm not sure what the stone dust is like. I would certainly like to see that before it was done.
Yeah.
Aaron, isn't this the stone dust also present at Hall's Pond on one of the sites?
I believe it is. And I think whatever vote is taken, the vote for this, I think I would propose would be just to explore it further or to stop exploring it, not to say we're absolutely doing this. And if it was to be explored more, I would come with, images of maybe more plants that could be in the overlook or specifically path materials.
Or if
I think Mealy is right that when you first enter Hall's Pond, coming off of when you come down the beacon, come down that driveway, and you go in, there is some kind of material that's on the path, and I don't know what it is, whether that's stone dust or something, but it's not asphalt and it's not grass.
Right, so stone dust essentially is this like granular material. Does not feel as hard as asphalt or concrete, like it feels a bit more natural. But here, to Aaron's point, I just want to point out that, if, what we're looking for is yes or no in exploring further. And if this is something, that is of interest to everyone, then like these locations for like, especially if they're interested in overlooks, right? Like the overlooks that's shown here is some of the potential options, but then, we could, like for instance, like at the beginning of long boardwalk B, instead of a boardwalk, like if you want us to look at an overlook in that location, because it's fairly close to the path here, right? So that could be an option as well. So just want to point that out, bring that out there.
Thanks, Millie. As a member of the design review committee, I'd like to make a comment as well. I have to say, I'm excited by a boardwalk that goes through the wetlands because I think kids run through the wetlands and they'll like to run as will adults as well, go take a path onto a boardwalk through the wetland. And rather than having a path truncated with a overlook, I don't know why. And for an example, the boardwalk, can you make the plan a little bigger, Erin? The boardwalk, no, the plan we were looking at, can you just, yes, thank you. So if you're looking at the long boardwalk, instead of you could incorporate, you could make a semicircle that's attached to the boardwalk, and so you can pull off the boardwalk and sit and view from there, and so it would have an overlook incorporated in with the path, and in that case, I do like the long boardwalk with an overlook incorporated in it. And then I can see the coloring down below in this one better now. So, okay, we have we'll take a vote after we hear the other comments about whether to have a boardwalk through the wetland, but we have some non-committee, we have lots of other hands raised. So I'm going to start as you appear on my screen and call on you. So Connor Sheehan.
Connor, you should be able to unmute yourself. Please state your name and address.
Connor Sheehan, 516 Washington town meeting member. I really am opposed to this, like thoroughly opposed. I feel like all the feedback from the previous sessions have been like more naturalistic, lower the scope, less construction in the park, don't keep it closed for as long. This feels like we're increasing the scope, we're making it more, we're cutting up the park with even more pathways. We also heard like fewer fences, fewer pathways, more grass. People go here for the grass. It's a park. I don't know. This just seems a lot of it unnecessary. That's my statements.
Thank you for your comments. Then the next name I see is Christopher Maddox.
Christopher, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Thank you very much. My name is Christopher Maddox. I use he, him pronouns. I live at 64 Griggs Road. Connor speaks my mind on this topic. There are two reasons that I am strongly opposed to this proposal. And it's not just these proposals, it's any that would further bifurcate the park. The first is, as we know from Central Park and other Olmsted parks, one of the ways in which you create aesthetic interest in parks is by strategically blocking spaces. So any proposal that would bifurcate or create spaces or views through the park, I think will fundamentally sacrifice what makes Griggs Park unique, which is the feeling of naturalness, of wildness, of a local forest when we create pathways through it. So that is the first piece that I'm strongly against. The second is that as a parent of children that have spent lots of times in this space, I can say first, it is really uninteresting. For half the season, it's just kind of damp ground. And then in part, at times we get kind of a duck pond feel. Those are lovely, but I think that if there's an opportunity to create visual interest of places that people can go look, I think that there are other ways in which we can create that visual interest that doesn't require us sacrificing kind of what makes Griggs unique. Thank you for the time.
Thanks, Christopher. The next person with their hand raised, Naomi Schweitzer.
Hi.
Naomi.
Thank you. Naomi Schweitzer, Griggs Park neighbor. I echo a lot of the comments from Chris and Connor. I just think we should be doing less. We really want to just leave the park as much as it is now and leave the wild feel to it and not be paving, boarding, dusting, adding more, just like leave the dirt and trees and the natural elements there. And the kids love the natural area, and they don't need to have a boardwalk to know to go play and explore in there. They already do it all the time, and they love it. And they love the fact that they get to make it up as they go along, and they get to create the paths and where they want to go. They don't need a boardwalk to help them with their play. They're already doing that very naturally. And there are already parks and sanctuaries in Brookline, which I love, including Amory and Horb Lake Sanctuary, that have these boardwalk elements, so that people can actually be able to walk through the natural areas without sinking into the mud. And this park has the pathway around it already that is already paved, that we've just now, the committee has voted to widen, and that's already a big change. And I think that's enough. We should leave the center wild and as it currently is, except for any needed drainage improvements. Thank you.
Stephen Goldstein.
Stephen, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hi, thank you. Hi, Stephen Goldstein, 516 Washington Street. I agree with Connor and Chris wholeheartedly. Connor on his comment saying that the previous meetings were about trying to lower the scope of what you're going to change and do in this park, and Chris with the comments of the wetlands are not really wetlands. It's a drain. It's a big puddle a few times during the year, but it's not a constant wetland. It actually hasn't been wet for months now, which is lovely for us dog people and for the kids. But I think that would be a waste of your time, energy, and finances to try to build a boardwalk through that for anything. It would be the most uninteresting boardwalk around. There's no need for it. The elements, as Naomi said, of naturalness are there. Kids love the two cement platforms that cover the drainage thing, and they use that as platforms to sit and to create, lookouts. It doesn't need to be anything more than that. Things that do have to be changed, that'd be great to do, are to fix the problems, like the broken pipe that has a big hole in it that's in the ground outside of that thing's an old drainage pipe that some dogs have caught their feet in. To fix up the other holes that are around. There's another hole on the other side. To fix up some of the benches, to maybe consolidate and make the play equipment better. Those are the things that have to be fixed, not try to build this park into something it's not. It's not a wetland park, and I don't think building a boardwalk is called for here.
Thank you, Stephen. Michelle Rosen.
Oh. Michelle, you should be able to unmute yourself now.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I won't take a lot of time since Connor, Naomi, Stephen, and the gentleman who went prior really hit the nail on the head for me. I live at 40 Griggs Road. We do not need a boardwalk through the wetlands. It's unnecessary. The kids enjoy it as it is. People come to the park to sunbathe, to picnic. We don't have to create it and make it something that it's not. People enjoy it as it is. So I agree, whatever improvements we need to make to bring it up to code, make it safe, address the drainage issues, but let's not spend time, resources, and disruption on adding things that the park really does not need. It's a beautiful park as it is, and people enjoy it the way it is currently.
Thank you, Michelle. Karen Henley.
Karen, you should be able to unmute yourself now.
Thank you. It's Laurie Goldman with Karen Henley. We raised our kids in the park. We live up on Winthrop above Gardner. I want to agree with Chris, Naomi, Steve, and And also, agree that sometimes there's a wetland, sometimes there's not a wetland. And when there is a wetland, you need to be able to get in there to see the tadpoles. And also that this short boardwalk thing goes right through where people like to do Tai Chi and lie down, and where people gather together to have the dogs play. This is like a place for children to wild in the middle of the city, in the middle of the town. And so I won't take up any more of your time.
Thank you.
very much.
Thank you, Karen. That was Karen, right? Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so I don't see any more hands raised. You, Mili? No.
No, I think it seems like we're good for now.
Okay, so I think we should have a motion on, the motion can say we want boardwalks or we don't want boardwalks. We'll start with something quite simple like that. And I won't make every motion. If another committee member would like to make a motion, I welcome that. Seeing none, I will make a motion Teresa, thank you for raising your hand,
Yeah,
Teresa.
sorry, I was a little slow on the button there, Clara. I'm happy to make a motion. It sounds like based on the feedback that we've received and the discussion tonight, and also personal interest, that we should skip on building any boardwalk in the wetland experience at Griggs Park. So I make a motion to I don't know, not build a boardwalk on the wetland experience at Griggs. Is that phrased okay for you?
Can you say not build a boardwalk or an overlook?
Sorry, not build a boardwalk or an overlook over the wetland experience.
Thank you, Teresa, for that. So the proposal is no additional paths / boardwalks as shown on this plan, and no overlooks as showed on this plan. And I will second that. And I do think we try very hard to listen, and it was very clear people do not want this, even though I know as landscape architects, we love to design things. So we'll take a vote, and if you vote yes, it's no additional paths as shown on this, no boardwalks, no overlooks. And I'm going to call, I'm going to go Teresa, just because you're first on my list. Teresa?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, that's a yes for no paths. Okay, Carol,
No.
you would like a path.
Well, I would like, this whole discussion just revolved around children, not about older adults who use the park.
Okay.
And, so I'm saying no. I think we should continue to look at it.
Okay, so there's one yes and one no. Jane Flanagan.
Yes.
Patricia Roberts.
Yes.
Zora Kikinis,
Yes.
sorry.
Yes.
And I say yes. And Stephanie is still not here, I think. So there are 6 people voting, 5 yes, and 1 no, which means the committee has voted for no additional paths. Thank you. So Erin, thanks for blowing that up to make it bigger, and on to your next question and presentation.
Erin, you're muted.
Sorry. The next thing is looking at the northern entrance path on Griggs Road. It is currently, like the main entrance, not accessible, and there was talk about either adding a curb cut or making it accessible. So this is looking at 3 potential different options to bring the path up to code. Option 1 would be to run an accessible ramp with hand railings down the slope. The slope is steep enough that if you're not going to do a switchback, you do need a ramp. I tried to make it work without it, and there's no way without running along the road and taking out a bunch of trees. The second option is to forego the ramp, do the little bit of switchback, which as you see, I made it as tight as possible to get you a 4.5% slope. But then also, because that is such a long path, that adding in a couple of steps for a cut through, so that if you don't need the sloped walk, you would just walk down the stairs. The third option which saves one additional tree because both of these would involve the removal of the 2 trees shown in the picture on the lower right, would be to just bring the path up to code with running slopes. You would still need some steps and some cheek walls because of how steep the slope is, but that would allow you to basically save one of those trees. So that's the brief overview. I also, just to give you kind of a picture of what it would look like. So these are just kind of 2 accents, so that there's a little bit of distortion. These ramps are actually the same slope just because of the angle of them. One looks steeper than the other. This is showing kind of what it would look like if you did ramps, showing the handrails. And then the bottom one is showing where you could come in the stairs, but then you could also see there's low cheek walls and bringing in a sloped walk. And the third option I don't have an accent for, but it basically be a straight path with a couple of stairs.
So Aaron, could you clarify for people that in 2 of the 3, you could access the park at this entrance with a stroller or in a wheelchair, but
Or
with
in a
one,
bike. Yep. It would
but
be
with one you could not.
correct. So 2 of them are universally accessible. The third one is not universally accessible. However, it is allowed to make this entrance not universally accessible because there is another entrance. There are 2 other entrances in close proximity that are.
Okay, so we're now open for discussion because we'll need to select one of these options or point Aaron in the direction of one of these options. So do we have reactions from committee members? Do you, Aaron, because I think this is a little harder to grasp, can you just go back to the previous slide and enlarge the accessible ramp? Just enlarge that one so people can see what's going on. And you see that what's sort of the path is in gray, and where there's ramp, it's sort of a beigeier color with some black stippling on it. And that would have handrails because that would be 1 and 12. Is that correct, Aaron?
Correct. It's a little bit below, yeah, it's a little bit below 1 and 12. But basically, yes, it is at the maximal slope that it is allowed for a ramp.
Okay, so that is accessible, but you would see handrails on the slope. And then if you go to the next one, to the right, Aaron?
My panning works opposite of how I want it to. I'm gonna have to zoom out.
Mm-hmm.
There.
Okay. So that one, the ramp, and that is a ramp also with handrails, or is that just sloped and needs no handrails?
That is just a sloped walk at 4.5%. You would not need handrails.
So in that one, to go on a bike, a stroller, or a wheelchair, you would enter the park, turn right, and then make a U around and enter back into the main entranceway. If you were able to do steps, you could go straight, and there would just be handrails at the steps as required by code. Okay. And this one, I think the thick line on either side indicates a little bit of a retaining wall. Is that correct?
Correct.
And then on this one, you could not enter with a stroller, bike, or wheelchair. Because there'd be 3 sets of steps, just a few steps grouped together in 3 places, and those would have a handrail for those steps. And those are the 3 options. Do we have any? And can you pan back out, Aaron?
Mm-hmm.
I don't. Oh, Carol, and okay, we have hands raised now. Carol,
Okay.
you want to?
Yeah, I have a question about, at the start of this, Aaron said that some of these things were going to require removal of trees. And from his pictures here, I'm not sure if it is which trees are we talking about? Because there's different trees in each one of the 3. They're not in the same places. So in the first, say the first one there, no,
So, oh no, I was gonna say, so this tree here is an
which tree?
existing,
No, could you, go back out so you could point to which tree you're talking about?
that one. So all the existing trees are these circular ones that are a light color. We proposed to plant new trees, which would be the darker color.
Okay, so on this one, in other words, there would be no tree removal.
There would be one. There's a current tree right about here.
Oh,
So
okay, what about on the other two?
the other two, so it's the same two trees.
So the other two lose 2 trees, but concept number 3 loses only 1 tree. Is that correct?
Correct. Because this one, because of where the current path is in relation to the trees, you're within the drip line of both of the trees. To disrupt the grade there would basically to make the trees decline severely or severely compromise their health and make them hazardous. So this was trying to what I was trying to do here was trying to fit these in to have both the entrance where transportation would like the entrance to the park be, and also impact as few trees as possible.
So what trees in this accessible ramp, where are there trees now that would not be there in the future?
Right here, and right about there. Right here is the existing path.
Yeah. So with this big tree at the start of the ramp, would that be in the way?
Which
Or
one?
is that going to be a new tree?
These right here?
Yeah.
These would be new trees.
Okay.
So the existing trees are all these perfect circulars with the lighter color. The new ones are the ones with more texture.
Okay, so but you don't show none of these are shown, the ones that are there now, which will be removed. So we have to go through and see where they
Correct. One there, one there. They're the same 2 trees in all of the plans, with the exception of on the third plan.
But Carol, if you just do, Aaron just showed us where 2 trees are being removed. Can you just make those 2?
But I mean, it's too bad that they don't show on this diagram so that people who look at this will know what he's talking about.
Well, maybe he could dot them in and say tree to be removed before we.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful for people.
Okay. So then
At
on
least for
number,
me, it would be helpful.
Thank you. And on number 2, we're losing the same 2 trees. Is that correct?
Correct.
And then on number 3, we're losing 1 tree.
Yep. So this tree right here would stay.
Thanks. Okay, so we have other hands raised, so I'm going to go on to, as I see you on my screen, Zora.
Zora Kikinis. I had the recollection that that this entrance, this path doesn't need to be redone. Is that not correct? I understand that it's too steep, but I was thinking that we can go around it and not to change anything, leave it as it was.
So I would have to double check with somebody who's more versed in building code, but I believe like at Schick Park, it's one of these things where when you renovate a park beyond a certain level of budget, you trigger the updated building code. So if that would be something we would have to look at with legal requirements and look at with the state.
Because Zora, I think what Aaron's saying, it may be considered too steep, and therefore if it's icy or something, people, they're afraid of falling. But you're saying if building code says we don't have to change it, we shouldn't change it. That's what you're saying.
Go out.
Zora, is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next person on the committee who has their hand raised is Patricia Roberts.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I mean, I agree with Zora. It's for such a small park, it already has 3 entranceways. Maybe it doesn't need 3. The fact that it does not provide universal accessibility is fine because there's 2 other entries. Well, then maybe resources shouldn't be put into making this one more complex than it needs to be. I mean, I just kind of agree. If we can leave it as it is, fine. It just seems to be, again, taking away some green space or taking away trees or just another infrastructure that kind of seems unnecessary.
Thank you, Patricia. So we have, do we have any other committee members with their hands raised? Seeing none, I'll go to people who.
Jane has her hand raised.
Jane has her hand raised. Yeah.
I do have and actually my question is similar to Patricia Roberts' question. It is a small park, and I'm wondering, do we need 3 entrances to the park, and is there any potential of greening in a non-universally accessible path? So that's my question, but I would also, obviously like to hear from the neighborhood, but it just seems to me 3 entrances seems like a lot, and there could be more opportunity for greening in, something that we've been hearing people say that they want, more green and more natural. So it's a question.
So Jane, you're saying, is that this entrance needed at all? Is that your question?
That is my question. Thank you, Clara.
So let's see, Patricia, do you want to, since you said keep it as it is, do you think it's needed though?
I don't. I mean, I use all the exits and entrances, but I wouldn't mind not having that one available.
Any other committee members who?
Yes, I have another question.
Wait, Carol, can you, I just want to get other people's
Okay.
input into Jane's, suggestion. We don't have a path there at all. Does anyone else who's spoken previously about the path want to say whether they'd like to see the path? They prefer seeing it kept as it is rather than getting rid of it. Any comments on that?
Well, that's partially what my comment is.
Okay, all right, go ahead, Carol.
Well, my understanding of the 3 access, one of them is from Marion Street, and that is one of the steepest inclines going down to the park. And if that isn't going to be fixed, then I think you need to do something about this one.
So there are slopes at Marion Street. The slope into the park is actually below 5%. As it existed. We would rebuild it with new material, but as it currently is below the threshold where you'd need a ramp.
Are you talking about the Marion Parkway? The longer from Marion Street down to the park, or the actual
Yes,
gate?
yes.
Because that is steep.
Yeah, it is.
Are you talking about the little path that connects? That would not be part of this park project. That would be
But
something.
what is the 3rd entrance then?
You see them on the plan.
Well, this is only showing the entrances on off of Griggs. It isn't showing. Oh, I see it up. That's up there, but that's the one that you have to come down that Marion Street slope.
But you can still enter the path through Griggs Terrace. So it's considered accessible from the entrance to the park at Griggs Terrace. The path on the other side of the road doesn't, you don't need to access for that.
I think that, well, okay.
Okay, so if Aaron, do you see any other hands of committee members? If not, we'll go to the.
I think Naomi.
Naomi is not a committee member, but we will definitely hear from
Okay.
Naomi. So I'm going to start as I see you on my screen. We'll start with Stephen Goldstein.
Stephen, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Oh, great. Hello. Hi. I have a couple of questions, I guess, for Aaron first. I was confused on your presentation, Aaron. You said that one of the options is to not do anything and just leave it as it is?
No. I'm saying one of the options are to do the ramp, the path and steps, or just add steps. There was the other option that they brought up was that we could either look at leaving it as it is, but I would have to consult with building code. We'd have to ask the state if that's allowed.
Got it. Okay, got it. Thank you. So I'm actually just walking to the park now with my dog. Of course, moving trees also depends on what trees you're removing. If it's one of the bigger, older growth trees, that would be a shame to have to move. I don't know which ones they are. I agree with Carol. I could not really understand on the drawing which trees are being kept. Yeah, they seem to be different ones in each one. I'm not so sure. So that would be one thing to consider. The other option is, of course, I want to make this accessible to everybody. I don't think that taking off that entrance is a good thing. I think people use that entrance. It's people coming from that side of Griggs Road or Griggs Terrace, whatever which one is. I always forget which one is which, but come in on that side. I exit that side sometimes, walk around. And of course, using the one from coming in from Marion Path is also very important. And the one at the main entrance, which we thought to have a crosswalk from across Washington Street in order to access the park better, that also is necessary. So I don't think taking one out is a good idea. But of course, keep making them accessible would be great. I think the least impact that you could have would be the better, whatever that means. But if it's about accessibility for strollers and ramps, for strollers and bikes and stuff, of course, I think having just the steps obviously would not be a good thing. I guess I want to fight for a middle ground here. I think that we do want to make it accessible for everybody. I don't know how it's not at the moment, but I take your word for it that grade is too steep. I thought the big problem was the main entrance was steep and long, but I could be wrong.
They both are. The nice thing about the main entrance is it's a simple regrading and exercise that doesn't impact a lot of trees
I
or
see.
switchbacks.
I see. Great. Yeah. By the way, the kids, children use that steepness for learning to ride a bike all the time. It's actually quite useful. So I hope you don't lose complete. I think having some kind of grade, they probably have to have it anyway, would be great. Kids like that. And I know we would talk about, Carol, and I know you brought up the idea of talking about adults or older adults using the park as well. I agree, but there already is the path that goes around. Many people use the path to walk. I see older people all the time using it. Being almost an older person myself, I do use it too. I don't think we're not trying to say that this park should only be for kids and dogs, but I think primarily leaving it as it is right now is what's lovely about it. I don't know if anybody was in the park over the last few days of the weather, but it was packed with people on picnic blankets and packed with kids playing on the crosswalks and dogs, and shared and used by all. It was quite glorious to see.
Great. Thank you, Stephen. I just want to point out the time that it's now 7:17 and we do have quite a bit of material to go on. And there's still 4 more people with hands raised. So
just tell me to be quiet. Sorry.
Super brief.
So sorry.
Thank you, Steve. I appreciate it.
So then the next, we have 4 more hands, and we'd love to hear from you, but if you could be as concise as possible, that would be great. The next person is Naomi Schweitzer.
Hello again, Naomi Schweitzer, Griggs' neighbor. We definitely need to keep the entrance to this park. Please do not get rid of this entrance. The way people use this park and the way they enter it, because we've got the 2 entrances from Washington Street. People come from both directions. Kids from the high school walk through the park every day. Kids that are coming from Park Street and the Coolidge Corner area will often route themselves through the park. Commuters route themselves up to Beacon Street to get to their blue bikes, to get to the train, to get to the buses. We have the 66, the 65, and the C line on the kind of the 3 different sides of the park. So there's a lot of activity happening, and those entrances are really important for people's commuting patterns and just general accessibility if they're coming to use the park for recreation. But it is also a commuter cut through for both our school children and people going for shopping and work and other errands. And I would just put another plug in to please keep the park as much the same as possible. And I feel like we don't have enough information for the committee to vote on this. I don't know what trees you're proposing to cut down. Before any decision is made on this, I would want to know specifically which trees, how big they are, what kind of trees they are, and how long it would take to replace them. I am a town meeting member and we just voted on tree preservation bylaw. And now we're here in one of the most beautiful parks in the whole town and talking about cutting down trees, where we have control over this. So I think we need more information before we can make a decision on this tonight. Thank you.
Thanks, Naomi. Michelle Rosen.
Michelle, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Hi, everybody. Thanks. Michelle Rosen, 40 Griggs Road. Just quickly, we live near that entrance and people use it all the time. So I, for one, would not like you to take away the entrance. It gets a lot of use. And again, kind of per Naomi, people are using it to cut through from one end of the park to the other. So I'd like to keep it. I think somebody had mentioned if we can keep the pathway the way it is, if it's not an issue from a state regulatory standpoint, I suggest we leave it. If not, let's do, what's the least disruptive thing. And in my mind, that would be option 3. But it does seem like we need more information before we can really make a decision. Thank you.
Sushma? Oh, Sushma, please.
Sushma, you can unmute yourself.
Okay, thank you. Sushma Bopana, 12 Griggs Terrace. I agree that we should keep the 3 entrances for the reasons stated, but also I also feel like people enter and exit at different entrances. It also allows for more space and we're talking about people bumping into each other. It just gives more options and less cause for bumping into people when you're coming and going. I do have a question and I think the time is short, so perhaps at the next meeting, but I don't quite understand the handrails proposals. At the current, there aren't any handrails right now, so I'm just a bit unclear about the proposals for handrails. Is that to become accessibility? But you've already said that 2 are already accessible, so I'm a bit confused about. And the drawings right now show handrails in number 1, maybe all of them. I'm not even sure. So at some point, maybe we could get some clarity on the handrails.
Yep, I can provide a really brief one. So the first one has an accessible ramp. So by code, you have to have a handrail on those ramps. The second one, you would
Chloe. Hi, Chloe.
The second and the third one, you would only need small handrails at stairs. And again, that is by just state building code. But you would not need a handrail along the ramp.
Sorry. It's okay.
Stephen Goldstein, can you mute yourself? Thank you. Go ahead. Sorry.
Okay.
Sushma,
All right.
did you?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, because some of the double lines are small, short retaining walls. That's what may look like on accessible path 2. Those are retaining walls, not handrails. Karen Henley, would you like to ask a question or make a comment?
Karen, you should be able to unmute yourself. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Again, it's Laurie Goldman with Karen Henley. Question on the option 3, this possibility of stairs, and how steep are the stairs? Because having a very slow grade of stairs can be really exciting for bikes and kids and strollers and not be a problem. That's one thing. The other thing, and you can answer that, but the other thing is taking a look at the trees. I really appreciated the comments that went before it, because those of us who've been here for over 35 years know that these trees are very large and they fall over, and there's a grade of small trees, medium trees, and large trees, because these willows do not last. So to take a look at which trees we're talking about is something that we should put off and take a look at and see if these are at the end of their life or at the beginning. Thank you.
Yep. The 2 in the lower right-hand photo, so they are 2 large willow trees. We can definitely have our arborist look at that, no matter whatever is proposed or as we move forward.
Thank you.
Thanks, Karen. So I think we need to move on for this, but give Aaron some direction. So is there a committee member who wants to make a proposal? So,
Yeah, I'm willing to make a proposal, Clara. It's Carol.
okay, Carol, you make a, oh, you're gonna make a motion.
A motion.
Okay.
I move that Aaron spend more time finding out from the state whether these the ramp requirements are up to code or not, and if we really need to have them. Also, I would recommend that he do more work with the trees so that people get a real idea of which trees we're talking about. That's my
So Carol, can I suggest that you move, and I think this will accomplish what you want to move. You make a motion that we're going to keep this, that Aaron keeps this entrance and keeps it as is, if allowed by the state or the.
No, that isn't my motion.
But then he wouldn't remove any trees if he keeps it as is.
No, but if he keeps it as is, it's only if the state says he doesn't have to change it.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think we need a motion as concise as possible. So I think we should move to keep this entrance since it's been suggested not to keep it. And
But
then
that does, by saying that we want to keep this entrance, does that exclude looking at the other two possibilities?
well, he's given us three possibilities.
Right.
These are the three he came up with, but it was sort of my sense, it was my impression I got that people would like it to be kept as it is if possible. So Teresa has her hand up. Maybe she'll help us out. Go ahead, Teresa.
Sorry, I think, Carol, what you're saying is we want Aaron to figure out whether or not it's required for us to make an upgrade here, given the scale of the park updates. And I don't think we have clarity on whether or not we have to update it or not. Is that right?
Right.
That's
Okay.
how I understand it. I think the question is, or at least what I hear is keep it, but also can we truly keep it as is? But not only just keep the entrance, but can we keep it as is based on state law?
Yes, and Carol, that's what I'm trying to get from Carol. If he can keep it as is that what your motion says? Keep it as is if possible, if allowed. Do you want still more other?
Yeah, I think maybe, my interest is that keep it as is, but I still am concerned about the incline there for people in mobile devices, either wheelies or wheelchairs.
But okay, Carol, he's shown in his solutions that there are two willow trees that will have to be removed in the first two and only one in the third. So he has studied that. I don't understand what other information. He has pictures in the bottom of his presentation slide that show the two willow trees. Those are the ones that will have to come down. And Aaron, correct me if I've misunderstood. In option one, those both come down.
Yep, just
In option two,
They both come down.
yep.
they both come down. And in option three, the one on the right comes down.
Yes, but is there also an option 4, which is just do nothing?
And Teresa, that's what I was thinking. And
So can we make a motion that to do nothing to the stairs pending further advice from the state? Is that okay?
I think that's okay. So Jane, are you
I think that from hearing what everybody's saying, I think the motion would be to keep the stairway as is.
Not stairway path.
It's not a
There's no
stairway, it's a path.
The path, excuse me, as is, pending advice from the state, is that's okay with the state.
Pending confirmation from the state.
Confirmation from the state. So that's the motion.
Oh, if,
That's
Um,
fine with me.
Susan.
Jane can take over the motion.
okay, thank you, Carol. I just,
Yeah.
okay, so,
All right, so the motion is
Jane
to-
has made a motion to keep the path as it is pending confirmation from the state that that is allowed under code.
I second that.
Thank you. Who says I second that?
Patricia.
Patricia, thank you, Patricia. Okay, I'm gonna call people's names. Sorry, we're taking so long. Okay, Teresa,
Yes.
Carol,
Abstain?
okay, Jane,
Yes.
Patricia,
Yes.
Zora.
Yes.
I vote yes. So that's 5 yeses and 1 abstention from the 6 committee members who are present. There is a hand, Naomi has her hand raised. If you can make it really, really brief. I assume this is about this pathway.
Thank you. I'm just wondering what the threshold is. Is it a dollar amount that the state would be ruling on where it triggers the newer building code? Because the renovation is currently budgeted at 2 million, or is it on some other factor like square footage of the park or acreage?
It's both dollar amount and percentage of the park. Since we'd be doing the entire path, the playground, it would both trip because we're making substantial improvements. So that the way they rule it is substantial improvements versus if you're just repairing something. So, and we're making a substantial improvements. The way it rules is it's the same as with your house, where you can make repairs to your house and you don't have to meet current building code. But if you do a giant renovation, especially in multifamily or public, you do have to bring it up to the modern building code.
In terms of time, I think we're gonna have to move ahead and hopefully we'll be pleasantly surprised that the state, if we can get rid of it, hopefully they'll let us keep it the way it is. But so we're gonna move on to the play area.
So there will be no discussion of play equipment tonight. We're just looking for preferred layout is in relation of play equipment to the central path. This was the precedent that was brought up at the last meeting of Emerson Garden, where everybody liked kind of the play equipment set a little bit aside, and there were some permeable barriers with either benches, fences, or planting. Based on feedback, we'd lean more towards boulders and planting. So these are the 3, this is just an overview of the 3 play options. The first one is similar to the existing, which was the preferred option at the last meeting. It's basically the same concept. The second one is the second most preferred option from the last meeting, where you push the play equipment outside of the path with some tweaks. There was just comments of it still looked like it was kind of forcing, like the main desire line was through the playground. So I took some looking at it and redesigned the path so that the main desire line is not through the playground. The third came from the discussion on the second one, where somebody asked if maybe what happens if you flip it and you have the path on the outside and the play equipment on the inside. Regarding play equipment footprints, all these are about the same size. The current safety zones for all the current play equipment is 4,522 square feet. All 3 of these go up a little bit in size, and a lot of that is just due to modern day standards for you need a little bit increased safety zone. But they're all under 6,000 square feet.
Aaron, can you use your
I have blow ups for each one.
Okay, great.
So for option 1, if it helps, the current play equipment is right here. Sorry, I'm drawing bad. And then the net climber is the same. So this is just basically, it's almost in the exact same footprint. It's just shifted slightly. And some areas are combined, but then we kind of expanded on the other side. Second one. Current play equipment. So the purple line is the current path. Current play equipment is here, here, and here. And the net climber is there. And on the third one.
Just so people, can you go back to that one? I think it's not clear that okay, the gray path if you could show with your and the dotted path would not exist,
Correct. The dotted path is the existing path in the park.
and that would be changed.
That would be changed. This one is, as you can see on this one on the inside, is much closer. We just push it out a little bit to give us more room on the inside. And on the first one, the path is essentially where it is now.
Okay.
I just want to also add that option 2 and 3 really addresses the fact that, in the last few meetings and survey, there was a lot of concerns brought up with conflict between the play and dogs, and the two layouts like help to keep the play areas separate. And in addition to that, here you can see in the write-up that Erin is proposing, trees and boulders or seat walls and shrubs to really, create that visual barrier, but like not really high fence, but more natural barriers to keep that visually separate.
Okay, so Erin, that you don't have okay, great. So hands raised from committee members. Oops.
Looks like Zora has her hand raised.
So so Zora Kikini is here. I really appreciate the layout 2 and 3. I think both of these options will be very helpful to keep the playing children, especially the small size children, so the 2 to 5 years of age, and the dogs away from each other. Not completely, I mean, they can see each other, but they would not really run into each other. And so I really do, I like that very much. I think the children will profit from this, and I think also the dog owners will probably profit from this because they no longer would have to follow the rule of keeping the dogs on the line when they cross the playground area. So version 2 and version 3, I think they are very good.
Thanks, Zora. No other committee members have their hand raised that I can see.
Jane does.
Jane has her hand.
I'm sorry, I'm getting in a darker and darker room here. And anyway,
go ahead, Jane.
That being said, I just wanted to mention, ask a question. Number 3 seems to be the only one that is actually putting actual benches in. Is that correct?
So option 2 or 3 could both be benches. We were looking at maybe they're interchangeable, except for maybe just showing one other alternative without drawing 2 more plans of you could do shrubs and maybe a low fence, or you could do benches, or you could do a combo of both in either one. It's the same distance in between, so it's easy enough to mix and match.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I think. All right, I'm gonna call people's names, please be as brief. Oh, Carol, we have another committee member. Carol, would you like to say something? You're muted.
I have a question. In drawing 2, there is I don't know what you call it, a beige path going through the middle of the playground.
Yes.
Is that asphalt? What is that? Or is that just a dirt path?
It would most likely be asphalt, but we could look at other surfaces. It would have to be some sort of path for accessibility purposes, though. So we would have to connect all of it with hardscape, just due to accessibility.
Okay, thanks.
Oh. Okay. Again, we've got still a fair amount more to do. So, Stephen Goldstein.
I've heard your warning. Thank you. I would say that I think that the third one is probably the least likely to be successful. The fact that you're moving all the play equipment further into an area where the dogs are likely to be in the in the wild area. And you're not going to be able to separate that so easily from that. So you want to try to keep the play equipment, if you're trying to do any kind of separation, away from the center of the park, because that's where the dogs are a lot. I think if we have to change anything, I think number 2 looks nice. And I will say that I too have gone to see stuff in Emerson and how they separated there. I think it's actually quite nice. I don't think it's really separating it, but just enough to keep the dogs maybe a little more out of the play area, which I think would be good. Unfortunately, we'll lose the sandbox for the dogs on non-kid time, which is pretty funny. And the thing I was going to say is that I think it's nice having 2 paths going through. I would also, in number 2, it would be great to have some kind of climbing structure if you're not going to have the net. So I don't know if that's in the plans on adding that back in of some other sort of one, but losing the net structure would be is sad.
Thank you, Stephen. Naomi. Naomi, unmute yourself. Naomi Schweitzer, you're muted if you're trying to talk.
Oh.
Can someone mute me? I cannot seem to mute myself here. I'm so sorry.
Okay, there we go. Finally, I was unmuted. All right, thank you. So I prefer number 1, similar to the existing, for some of the reasons that Stephen just said of, the dogs love to play in the middle of the park. But I think most importantly for all users of the park, coming back to preserving the openness and the kind of the wild feeling and kind of the different rooms in the park. And by moving the playground more to the center, you're breaking up some of that green space. And one of the things that's so nice about the net structure that's currently there is it's a very airy, open playground structure. And so it kind of fits in. If you're going to have any playground equipment on that side, it doesn't cut down on sight lines for that open space. Which is also great if you are a dog owner or a parent and you're trying to keep an eye on your younger kid who may be on the younger kid playground and maybe on your 6 or 7-year-old who has gone to play and explore the middle of the wetlands. And again, just like saying, really wanting to keep the park as much the same as possible. And if we can keep the net structure and not have to spend more funds on additional playground equipment, that would also be great. Obviously, I want to spend the money we need to be able to bring the park up to code for accessibility and the drainage. But as a town meeting member and having to vote on these things, and we're probably going to have to be going to the voters soon for an override that the select board is going to be discussing, anything that we can do to cut down on costs and use any remaining funds to maybe go to other parts of our town infrastructure and needs, I'm all in favor of. Thank you.
Thanks, Naomi. Svetlana? Svetlana, unmute yourself.
Yeah.
Oh, finally. I was trying to unmute myself, sorry. I kind of agree with Steven. I don't like the layout of the 3 because it's more inland and dogs will be running all over the kids. Number 1 is pretty the same, and as we know, that dogs are peeing in the sandbox all the time. It was one incident, at least that I know of, that the dog bite a kid on June 25th, 2022. City has the record of it, and that's why I did at that time I did reach out to town, and they said that the park will be reconstructed at some point. So I really like number 2, where the kids area will be separated, not fully separated, but at least dogs won't be all over the kids, and kids won't be very scared of dogs, and there won't be any peas in the sandbox.
Thank you, Svetlana. Next person, Connor, please. Yeah, great.
Hi. Connor Sheehan, 516 Washington. I want to echo a few of the comments. Don't love 3. It's eating up so much land in the middle where people use it. Again, to Naomi's point, like a lot of people use this park. It's not just dogs and kids. It's like everyone who's going in there and reading and having picnics and sitting on the picnic benches and like just hanging out with their friends and playing games. It's great. It's really highly social. This looks like it eats up a lot of space. That's actually 2 and 3 both do that. Really happy to see no fences. We heard the last time that a lot of people just really don't want more fences. I was curious for number 1 if it's possible to do something like number 1 with some of those shrubs. Like if you can do sort of a combo of 1 and 2 where we keep that same layout but add shrubbery. And that way it preserves more of that green open space for folks.
It would be harder. We can try to cheat the path towards the net climber, but because of the slope on the back of the park, you run out of depth. So, especially for swings, because they're very deep, it becomes kind of a space constraint where you may have to, if you go much deeper than they are, you'd have to start constructing walls.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd be really interested just to see like if there's a way to keep that same kind of like pretty tight area for the playground that leaves more of the open area in the middle. So thank you.
I
Thanks,
think, Aaron, in that case, like the net, if we, remove the net climber and replace with something else, then what, is just being suggested would be possible, correct?
Yeah, that'd be pretty easy.
2 more comments on this. Cricket Clayton, please. Unmute yourself.
Hi, Cricket Clayton from 70 Park Street. I actually want to echo Naomi and Connor's points. 2 and 3, I think, unfortunately eat up a lot of that open green space that we've been advocating for. But number 1 sort of keeps things as they are. I agree with Connor's proposal of trying to have some additional sort of green plantings around that to be able to build in some of that separation. I heard your feedback, Aaron, but I want to second that it'd be great to look into that and see if there's any way to sort of combine the virtues of both of those options, and really just keep that open space as much as possible. So thank you.
Thank you, Cricket. Michelle.
Hi, everybody. Michelle Rosen, 40 Griggs Road. Just want to echo Naomi, Connor, and Cricket. I think option 1 is just in keeping with the feel of the park. Option 2 and 3 really take away from the park aesthetic, in my opinion. And I think, as someone who lives on the park, the beauty of it is seeing everybody interacting in the play area, young, old. The younger kids are using it during the school day. Older kids are using it later in the day, and they're running back and forth from the swing set to the climber to the, to the other climbing structure. It's just nice to have this kind of fluidness of the equipment and be able to use it in a fluid way. So I personally vote for option 1. And I will say, if you allow dogs off their leashes, nothing is going to keep them out of the playground structures, the playground area. So that's just the nature of the park. There are plenty other parks that people can take their children to if they really don't want to be around dogs. And I guess lastly, if people are concerned about the dogs being in the sandbox, maybe we should consider getting rid of the sandbox. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Kirill Carlin.
Hi, this is Kirill Carlin and Alicia Castley. We live on Beacon Street next to the park, and we have 2 kids, so 1 4.5 and 1 baby, and we often frequent the park to go to the playground. I'm a strong proponent, or we are both strong proponents of option 2 and 3, due to the dogs peeing a lot on the structure on the playground, and also like dogs running close to our kids who are scared of dogs. So we'd prefer some separation between, some way of separating out the playground from where the dogs are, similar to the style at Emerson, which we love. That's it.
Thank you, Kirill. Karen Henley.
Yep. So I wanted to say I would prefer the number one, but if possible, to create like a low fence, like the 3-foot fence around the structures, except for the climbing structure, with maybe 1 or 2 entrances that don't have gates, so there would just be openings to the playground area. And that, I think, would be very, very helpful to separate off like dogs and other people from the playground area. But keep what looks similar, because I don't want to lose any of the green space. That's it.
Thank you, Karen. Sushma, you're next.
Hi, Sushma at 12 Griggs Terrace. You know, I'm a little torn. I definitely would like it to be unchanged. I like option 1, just keeping it pretty much the same. I do have empathy with some of the obvious conflicts that go on. I'm a dog owner. And I, as a parent, when the kids were young, would not have appreciated the urine and the feces. So I do empathize, and I wish there was a way to combine maybe 1 and 2 to sort of give a boundary. But I also would like to also stress that perhaps if there's a way to enforce some of the regulations better about keeping at least the dogs when they're off leash out of that area. I don't know what the best way is with more park rangers or whatever, or enforcing the rules. But I agree that, you know, I agree with everyone that said that to pretty much keep it the same, but with the caveat that it is understandable about some of the issues that have been raised around the dogs, and me being a dog owner. You know, I love my dogs. I love that they can play freely and run around, but I do agree that there are some dog owners that don't follow the rules, and it can create a problem. So if there's a way to combine 1 and 2, as someone mentioned, with maybe adding more shrubbery, I would vote for that option. Thank you.
Thank you, Sushma. Zora, do you have a comment?
Yes, Zora Kikinis. Oh, excuse me. I've already said it. I would prefer version 2 and 3. I think especially the version 2 keeps a lot the same as it was before. I think many people mentioned that they like the openness of the Griggs Park. I think by moving the path a little bit does not really take so much of the openness. I think this is so little that people might not be able to even notice that, people that haven't used the park before. I also thinking then I might be wrong, but I also think that changing the path a little bit might not add to too many costs. If we are going to make the path wider, or if it's going to be moved a little bit, I think the cost probably be similar, but I don't know. I would also like to point out that, yes, there are a lot of people of different ages and generations using the park, but the playground has a really a big density of children to use it. Last time we mentioned that there are kindergarten or daycares coming to the playground. And on the weekend, there are a lot of parties, and there are a lot of young families with younger children. And so just in the previous days, it was very, very busy, and it was great to see that it was busy. And so I think we really should do something good and a safe environment for the children. I also have the impression that most parents that have children in small children, they are not able to come and participate in these meetings between 6 and 8 o'clock. And so I think we just should not forget, but we still should not forget about their interest.
Thank you, Zora. So we have two more speakers. Laura Gerald, please be brief.
Clara, and I would like to note that it's very close to 8 o'clock and we still have fairly substantial amount of material. And you know, I would say again, like to Clara's point, like please keep your comments super concise at this point. Or if you'd like to type your comments and chat, like that would be a good way to keep this moving along as well.
But this meeting is definitely going to go to 8:30 if we're in.
It is, and we're trying to be
trying to give
respectful of everyone's times.
Erin as much direction as possible. Laura, you're muted. Okay, Laura, if you want to speak, you have to unmute.
Laura, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Laura is still muted, so we're going to. Okay, Laura, we cannot hear you, so you can either make your comments into the chat or email them. So
yeah,
Hi, sorry, it wasn't giving me the option to unmute. Sorry. My name's Laura Jarrell, and I live at 40 Charlton Place, and I use the park mostly as a green dog owner. And I just wanted to say from this perspective, the main reason that the dogs and children have any interactions is from the path and from the water dispenser. And so I just would want to say anything that you can do to block from the path or move the water dispenser will really change how much the dogs and children interact.
Thank you, Laura. And Svetlana, have you spoken to this issue?
I did. I just want to add something really quickly. As a parent, I think all the parents will agree with me. We just need some barrier from the dogs. Even if you go with the number one, if you just put a fence there, everybody will be happy. That's a low cost and it will make happy everybody.
Thank you, Svetlana. So now we need to give Erin some direction. And so if people have other things to add, please email Erin and he will take your comments to heart. So I would like to make a motion that we direct Erin to further the development of option 2. And I can say as a little background, I think it's easier. I don't think you're making the park any less green by putting the path inward from the play equipment. All this play equipment would incorporate the same structure. So we're not making any more play equipment. It will be still very episodic in that they'll be in little nodes. And I think it will accomplish what people want. It will also be easier to indicate to dog owners that they really aren't supposed to let their dogs go into the area where the play equipment is, that he can do it with rocks and boulders and benches, etc. So my proposal for the committee to vote on is I make a motion that we further develop option 2. So will anyone second that? And I see Melissa's hand is up, but we have left the discussion. I'm sorry, so please send your email to Erin.
I'm going to second your motion, Clara. Jane.
Thank you, Jane. So I'm going to call people's names. Teresa. Is Teresa still there?
Could you repeat the motion? I'm sorry.
That's fine. My motion is to further develop option 2, where the path goes between the play equipment. and the wetland. And that I just made the statement that it won't use up any more green space. And it will make it clear to dog owners that they really aren't supposed to have their pets enter that area.
Okay, yes.
Okay, so we have yes from Teresa. Carol. Carol, if you're voting, I can't. Is Carol here? Okay. Jane.
Yes.
Patricia.
Yes.
Zora.
Yes.
And I vote yes. So there are 5 people voting. Carol is no longer on the screen. Oops. Okay. So the motion from the committee is to further develop option 2. And Erin, do you want to go on to the next?
Sorry,
So-
Carol is not listed as a co-host, so she may not have the option to
Oh.
unmute.
Okay, I just made Carol a co-host again. Carol should be able to unmute herself.
I unmuted. Yes, I vote supporting Clara's motion.
Thank you, Carol. So it is now 6. That's unanimous on number 2. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm gonna go over the natural landscape part really, really quick. The big thing is these are the invasive plants that we had a wetland scientist come out and look at everything. So these are the invasive plants in the wetland. And I know at the Griggs cleanup, we'll be looking at wetland removal, so we'll help identify them. But also just showing some of the plants, the native plants that are value, that are currently present in the wetland. So we have some water plantains, sedges, winterberry, dogwood, buttonbush, arrowwood, blackhaw, and spicebush. But with that, I'm gonna hand it over to Sandy for drainage.
All right, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. So I'm going to give a very brief overview of what we've done to date, and it's really about looking at the existing conditions and understanding kind of the history of the drainage system on site. And it's looking at everything from the context of where the park is, where the drainage area contributing to the park, and where the wetland, excuse me, where the watershed is for this site, giving it context just to understand, what is going on within the park itself as far as drainage flows, where the drainage is going to, where it discharges to, how it fits in kind of the drainage area, which is all the area around it contributing to the actual drainage within the park. And then also looking a step back of what the watershed is and how it contributes to that watershed from more a vicinity that all discharges to the Muddy River. And so what we've done is kind of looked at that, looked at the existing conditions, looked at the historical plans to come up with, an approach. Previously, Aaron mentioned that the existing 15-inch reinforced concrete pipe that goes down the center of the wetlands is in good condition. He also mentioned that all the laterals off of it are mostly collapsed. I'll talk a little bit later on about the soils and about how that was constructed and how it's an advantage to keep that in place. The other things that we went through is to look at 2 general approaches. And just to understand that we're just looking at maybe more of a green infrastructure, low impact design, surface collection type of approach versus more of a traditional of like drainage pipes and so forth. And we were just doing broad brushes on these, and they were really just to understand, were they actually constructible and what it would take to kind of do that, to understand where the water issues are and what we could do to help make it better. We're not going to solve every issue going on, and when I go through this, you'll understand. And if you're in the neighborhood, you absolutely know what is going on in the park. It is a low area and it collects, and there is a local wetland there, and a lot of ponding during certain times of the year. And if you go, Aaron, to the next slide. So what we did is we haven't designed anything per se. What we've done is test fit things. In this case, all of the purple are the existing play structures. So what we wanted to do is say, can we, in the future, wherever they end up, can we actually provide drainage around each of those new play areas? And could we have under drains to reduce any kind of ponding or issues with wet areas in that? And can we get it to the existing drainage system and have it drain out so we don't have extended periods of kind of damp lawns and so forth? So we looked at those play areas just in context about constructability. The other thing we did is look around the existing roadways and just to see where the existing drainage is and what are the opportunities of potentially, collecting runoff from those particular roadways on the loop so that we could bring them into the site and do water quality. So we're doing enhancement for the quality of runoff and then bringing that into the park. It goes there anyways, but using it more in a superficial kind of approach of doing conveyance and so forth. We also looked at potential areas to put maybe bioretention basins. Now, what we're showing here, the bioretention basins as an example, is shown in blue. Now, these aren't really the actual locations. It'll depend upon what the actual design is. And again, we're not getting into that. All of this type of green infrastructure would be integrated into the design at some point, as is like if you have a new structure, the surface on it would be porous. We would put under drains in it, so we'd keep it dry. It provides some opportunity for infiltration. So it's a very broad brush. The bioretentions, we're looking at low points in the loop road around it, and then how could we convey it on the surface? What are the opportunities there? How we can treat it. Also on the south side of the wetlands plan south, we looked at, is there a possibility to do a pretty simple grass swale to try to prevent and give a place for the water to go to, so that the area adjacent to the wetlands in the lawn area would be a little bit drier. We haven't gotten to any details yet, but it's just a process of can we make the slopes work, those type of very basic constructability issues. And so that was the first option. The second option is very similar. If you go to the second one, is very similar. The difference is we're using a little bit more structures and a little bit more pipes and maybe not doing as many swales. Again, it's still the idea of how do we move water through the park? How do we, control where the dampness is and where the puddling is? Obviously within the wetlands, we want to maintain that, but outside of it, it's like how much can we, convey the water so we can control it and actually have a little bit less damp areas outside of the wetland areas. And if you go to the next slide, which is probably the one that most people, at least I am most interested in. So what we did is through several things. One, the existing condition survey, looking back at the 1949 design for the drain line that goes through the main area of the wetlands. Look at that. We did some preliminary borings to see how close what they called it back in 1949 to see how close it acts. So a few things, and people who go out there, and Erin's already kind of mentioned some of the settlement. So people are familiar with the park, so I'll go through this fairly quickly. On the bottom profile of the site, so that's going from when you look at the upper right hand corner, that is section B that goes through the long spine of the wetlands right along the drainage line. So a few things that we did is we look back on the 1948 design plans, and where that orange line is really what they called the depth. When you look underneath it, the depth of what they called mud. In the recent preliminary, recent preliminary testing, those two rectangles going down is some of the borings that were done, and generally they match up fairly well. Not exactly, except for on the current borings. We're referring to organic soil, some other kind of language on exactly what's going on. 1949, it was called mud, and it's really just the historical remnants of potentially old wetlands and other type of fill in that area, but it's more organic. As we already talked about the settlement. And if you look at the blue line is actually the pipe, and then the little squares are these structures. Someone mentioned it. One of the abutters mentioned those little concrete structures in the wetlands. Um, they're actually, access manholes and so forth. You can see some of the pipes near the surface. The original plans actually had the finished grade 6 inches above those structures. So, which means is that it's about, when you look at the blow up, there's a like almost like 12 inches. Thank you. There's almost 12 inches of settlement that has happened in the 75 years since this was constructed. So, you have that organic material underneath it. You have a low spot now, the water ponds on it, so you have settlement. So the good news is, back in the when this was constructed, they actually put a concrete slab underneath the pipe, and underneath that slab they have piers. So that's why when you go out to the site, you can see the hump where the actual pipe is. When you look at the area where that crosses the existing walkway, that's because the whole area of this site has settled. This is not uncommon. It's not going to sink around or anything. It's just going to continue to settle. But this tells you how much has happened over the 75 years, and it informs us. The good news is, when the town constructed this in 1949, it hasn't moved. So when I look at it as an engineer and I look at the information provided by the town as far as when they did a videotape of the actual pipe, it's telling us that it is in good condition. It's still functioning. In fact, it'd be better to leave it and use it as much as possible. So there's a lot going on here, within the wetland area, what's called the wetland area, of, things settling and so forth. And so with that information, we kind of looked at some of our options, really about leaving that in place and then looking at maybe tying things into it, looking at different options and so forth of putting in swales, maybe doing some bioretention areas, some passive type of things where we could treat the water potentially from the roadway, but also just provide a design that, kind of recognizes that what's there was built very well, even though it's 75 years old, and is still functioning, and it shouldn't be touched, because you would have to go through some sort of process, which they did in 1949, which is to have some sort of support for that pipe. So it's there. Let's use that. And for the new areas of potential, whether it's replacing the play structures or moving the play structures around, we would probably use very lightweight pipes and do under drains and very simple approaches to kind of keeping those areas dry and being able to convey the water, so that you have more or you have less ponding in the non-wetland area. A lot of information here, going through this very quickly, but trying to let you know that you've been around this park and you notice things, how it's settled and so forth, and this is kind of the background to that. And so what we're finding out now is that the historical data is pretty accurate, and it was a lot of help to us. And then it helped us inform where we did the preliminary borings. They confirmed generally what was going on. It helps us to determine, preliminary design of any kind of structure supports or foundations. So that's where we're at. And if you go to the next slide, these are, when you're talking about green infrastructure, surface type of treatments, they can be a wide variety. They can look a lot of different ways. You can have a very naturalized bioretention. As an example, down the left-hand bottom left is kind of more of a natural system. Up in the middle top is a much more landscape type of thing. Landscape approach to, planting for bioretention. It's really about what fits within the design. We're not saying doing one over the other. On the right-hand side for the grass swale, the top picture is a much more landscape type of approach with check dams that kind of go through it. On the bottom right is a very basic grass swale that's easy to maintain, is on the surface. It can convey water. We can also have, under drains in that, which also can convey, surface water and things like that. So there's a wide gamut of the type of stormwater management systems that we can do. And one of the things that we'll continue to work on is what's the goals for this site, understanding where it contributes, what contributes to it, so that we can come up with an approach that meets kind of not just the park, but anything else around it, and, you know, meet the goals and so forth. This is a park. We don't have a lot of regulatory requirements because most of it is, you know, vegetated lawns, etc., and not a lot of impervious areas. One of the things that we've definitely been talking about, any of the new play structures, almost all new play structures currently have a porous system. We can put a little bit of storage underneath it, have under drains to make sure they stay dry. If the walkway is replaced with a porous walkway, it still is fine for ADA access, but it will also provide places where to drain, but also to have under drains so that water can be taken away. So the trick here is to make as much as the park less wet while the wetland remains to have a feed of water so that you're not altering that particular area of the site. And those are more regulatory based because this is it is jurisdictional under the local wetlands. And so we have to go through a permitting process for any work that we do within that wetlands. And in this case here, based on all the information that we've gotten from the town, from the preliminary soil investigation, from the survey, it's basically the existing pipe through the wetlands is in good shape and should remain. So that has cost benefits, but it also has practical, you know, positive things where we can then use that and not touch it. So very fast. Sorry, I'm speaking so fast, but I have a feeling that we don't have a lot of time left. So I just wanted to get as much information out. And again, we're at the beginning. We're discovering what's going on the site, and we're looking to, you know, make improvements with the stormwater to make it more available for the abutters and the neighbors to have you know, use it more, and the lawn's not getting as wet. Obviously, the wetlands is we want to also maintain that hydrology in the wetlands. But a lot of information. Happy to answer any questions, and we're just at the beginning. So I know, Aaron, did I miss anything? I went through a lot of stuff very quickly.
No, I think you got everything.
So if I understand it correctly, Aaron, in our next meeting, Sandy will have more specific recommendations.
Yes, especially since we'll have a more cohesive design to actually design engineering around. Because as you know, this one's very much a kit of parts. I think the one question we're looking for is, would you want us to continue exploring the GI option, or if we just want to do the more traditional piping system with maybe a smaller GI footprint?
GI meaning?
Green infrastructure.
Thank you.
Low impact design.
Yes. We have a hand raised from Zora Kinkinis. Zora?
Yeah, thank you so much for doing all this work. But I might have missed it. So I would like to know more what's currently working. So if I look at the picture, the main line is in solid. It has a solid line, so that one is working. What I'm not sure about, does it the outlet, which is towards the east, east-south, is the outlet, yeah, and that beyond, thank you, is that working or not?
So
has that also collapsed?
So that area then it begins to get into different kind of infrastructure and drainage pipes there. Those are things that when we'll have discussions with the DPW and town engineer to make sure that everything downstream of that connection works. It all goes to a 48-inch by 48-inch culvert. That culvert actually goes all the way down to the Muddy River. So what we want to make sure is that there's no constraints where it connects, and to make sure there's no issues with that. In general, we will improve the drainage in this area, and you will not have as much flow going out of here. But sometimes what impacts the site itself isn't always what's exactly on the site. It could be downstream. So those are some of the questions that we have to continue to ask and find out about, which is what's the overall condition downstream, and does it surcharge, and what happens when it surcharges? So is there a lack of capacity downstream, which could impact this area? But that's a different question and a different problem than what's on the site itself.
Yes. So just to clarify, so the pipe is okay within the Griggs Park.
Correct.
It's draining.
Yeah, the 15-inch pipe that goes through the center.
Yes,
did a
goes all the
video-
way through.
Yeah, the town did a video inspection and found it in good shape, in operational shape. What isn't is there's a series of laterals off of that pipe, and all those are I believe they're 6-inch. They called out a 6-inch perforated, or there's ways of doing fittings that are loose. Basically, they're under drains, and most of those had collapsed. I'm guessing they were probably old clay pipes or something, and there is no under drainage for the rest of the park. So all of the things that were installed in 1949 to kind of keep the park dry are those laterals. Those laterals are not working anymore. They're under drains. They're not, taking the water out from underneath the lawn and so forth. But the pipe down the middle of the wetlands, the one in blue shown here, that is in good shape and that is functioning. The laterals.
Okay. Thank you.
Sandy, I have a question about the green infrastructure. From what I've heard from all the participants is they really like the lawn, that people picnic there, play in the lawn, dogs run in the lawn, and green infrastructure. I think people would be concerned if that a lot of the lawn becomes bioswales that are planted with shrubs and stuff. So does that require removal of lawn to do green infrastructure?
So on this particular plan, we're looking at the blue areas, which would be the bioretentions. They are chosen in areas where there's catch basins in the loop road. And the whole idea is that you would bring them into low areas and be able to so it would be outside of a lot of the lawn areas. And the whole idea is that there's an opportunity to treat the water prior to going into the drainage system. But we're not proposing any bioretention within the center of that loop, because it from just a very simple thing, elevation doesn't work. So, and then the swales, like the swales along the walkway on I'm going to say plan south, that is really just to be able to convey surface water, so you don't have as much ponding close to, because there was when I was out there in the spring, the area where some of the boardwalks are going, I was 6 inches of water there, or there's 3 inches of water and you get your feet wet. Having some of these swales are really just directing some of the runoff around those areas to be collected and put into the town's drainage system. So it's really a conveyance, and it's easier to do it on the surface. It would be a grass type of swale. But again, it would have to be designed and make sure that it all works from an elevation standpoint.
Thank you. So do we have any, Jane has her hand raised. Jane, would you like to ask a question or make a comment? And you're muted. You're still muted, Jane. Jane?
I think she's a guest too and needs to be promoted to be able to talk.
James, you should be able to unmute yourself now.
Okay, thank you. I do have a question. Thank you for the presentation. My question is, I keep hearing about frogs in the wetland area, right? So one of the things I'm just asking is, if there's frogs, that's basically a vernal pool, and that wouldn't be taking any drainage away from the vernal pool area? just
So-
to clarify?
Yeah, so that's once we get further along in our design and so forth, we'll have to analyze what's getting into the wetlands, the local regulated wetlands, so that we don't alter it. So the trick is to maintain the flow of runoff into the actual wetlands to make sure you don't dry it out, but also provide conveyance areas so that some of the lawn areas get a little bit drier.
Great,
So-
thank you. Thank you for explaining that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, I see no other committee members wanting to speak. It is now 8:25. Naomi and Michelle both have their hands raised. Can you each take 30 seconds? And if you have more to say, write it in. Thank you. Naomi, you want to go ahead and unmute yourself?
Thank you, Sandra. Super helpful. Just a few things on the southern edge of the park where those two dark blue arrows are. I appreciated your comment about working with the other town departments to kind of figure out what's happening downstream. There's at least one neighbor, if not two, that had to completely redo their basement because their basement was ruined due to flooding coming out of the park and the basins there. Thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. So any changes here, obviously trying to figure out how it's going to impact them and making sure that those neighbors who I don't see here tonight understand what's happening with the drainage and how it might impact their housing situation. And then on the other side of the park, on the more northern side where there's the blue arrows further apart, I didn't quite catch, there's a lot of information, but kind of how the street and the park drainage interact. I just want to share that the Eversource transfer station that is across the street from the park had a transfer station explosion and major fire with an oil spill, and it's still a cleanup site. And we have not been able to get our questions fully answered, and the trucks and Clean Harbors are still coming out. So it would be just important to understand how that interacts and make sure that we're not polluting the park. Thanks.
Correct, and that's great information. Thank you. Just understand that part of doing this would be to enhance water quality, but again, it's taking existing structures and instead of just not removing them, but maybe putting curb cuts in so that surface water from the road goes in and gets treated. But that's definitely something I'll ask about within the town just to see what information is available. Because the last thing we want to do is introduce any contaminants into the park.
Thank you.
Okay, we have one one hand left. Michelle, can you be quite brief?
Yes, I'll be very quick. So Sandra, this was super helpful. I live on Griggs Road, literally across from the park where the red arrows are pointing toward the swale with stone and storage under drain coloring. And I will say, in a heavy rain, Griggs Road in front of our house gets flooded. And so I just wonder if there's any coordination with the folks who are dealing with the roadway and like the drainage, the sewer and drainage there. Because I would imagine that the water is overflowing into the park because it does rise often above the curb. So just wanted to flag that, and it is pretty frequent. It occurs frequently when there's a heavy rain. So I wanted to flag that for you.
I appreciate it, and that's one of the reasons that's there. And we've had, early on had a conversation with DPW, but we need to follow up. Now that we have this information kind of all put together, we'd like to sit down and we have specific questions. And again, what we want to do is complement the drainage within the roadways because that's not really part of this project.
Right.
However, we need to understand what's going on.
Yeah.
And if it is overflowing, then having some sort of conveyance that then is directly pipes might work. But again, it gets into the overall drainage system for this area of the town.
Definitely. And it kind of flows toward the sewers, the drainage, the sewers, which are kind of right out front in front of our home. Kind of everything that, the road declines and everything kind of flows there. And it just, in a heavy rain, it just can't handle it.
Right. Which is not uncommon. It is the inlet structures that are typically the weak link in any collection drainage system.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something with our change in climate and rainfall patterns happening everywhere.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle. Thanks, Sandra. So, Erin, I don't think we need to take any votes on this. It's been very helpful, Sandy, to see all that you've done to date. So, Erin, you want to keep going?
Yep. So I'm assuming then we'll keep on going with both options, green and no green.
Oh, do you want to vote? Actually,
I would just say we don't have enough information at this point.
Okay.
It's really about the drainage downstream and working with engineering and DPW to make sure we're not making any false assumptions to make sure it works.
Okay. So no vote will be needed.
Thanks.
Do we want to go through the last one about seating, or do we want to save that for the next meeting?
Erin, I propose that you go through these very quickly, but then the voting can happen during the next meeting. And because we will be launching a public survey, we can get the feedback and based on that, and and also we can just save for next time for voting. But I would want you to just walk through quickly.
Okay. So this is the amenities, we're really just looking at adult fitness and seating options. So all the benches in the park would be, all the existing dedication benches would be put back where they are along the loop path. And any new benches that we propose or replacing benches that are not dedication, we do in a similar style, because I know there's a waiting list for dedication benches. So those would be part of the project. But then we do the same style so that as people want to dedicate benches, they all match. We're not reducing the number of benches. The ideas that we were looking at was for non-bench seating was currently there's one picnic table in the park. There's been a lot of talk about picnicking and people enjoying the lawn. And the three options that I had proposed that we can discuss at the next meeting are, do we want to do a picnic row where we do some scattered tables in the lawn? I'd proposed up kind of on the Griggs roadside underneath those two large shade trees, could easily move anywhere else. Would we want to do a small pavilion, not a large pavilion, or will we just want to keep it at one table, maybe one additional table over by the play area? And then for the adult fitness, the three options were a kind of a 500 square foot multi-use fitness zone, so that's smaller than the existing basketball footprint, where you could have like 10 to 12 people, up to 10 to 12 people use it at once? Or do you just want a simple pull-up bar or a couple of pull-up bars? Each one's about 100 square feet. Or doing a basketball, for basketball, it would be much smaller than even a half court. This 1,000 square feet basically gives you a free throw line and a little room to play like 2-on-2. Those were the three options for the adult fitness. And then the last thing I want to say is we've heard everybody's comments about Green Dog. We did talk to our services person, Kira, and she said that any changes to Green Dog would have to be made through the Green Dog subcommittee. So everything that has been said about conflicts has been noted. The only thing that we would maybe look about discussing is obviously relocating the drinking fountain, which we're just going to do based on all the feedback, and then maybe just putting up some additional signage in the park once it's reconstructed. No matter what the Green Dog says, saying no dogs in the playground and please keep dogs out of the wetland. That was the end of the presentation. I do have that survey is live. You were the first people to get access to it. If you want to scan it, it's basically the same options that were presented here tonight. And then there's also a comment box. So you can scan it here. I'm also tomorrow going to put it up on the project website. I'm going to do a sign in the park like I did last time, email the town socials, and I will be sending another abutters notification. That one will include both the link to this survey and a link to register for the next meeting. And the survey will be up until Sunday, September 28th. So it gives a month to respond and a month for us to look at the results.
So, Erin, did you say the next meeting, the date of the next meeting?
It is
October 28th.
October 28th.
Thanks.
And Clara, one final thing before we adjourn for today is, the DRC needs to approve the minutes
Yes.
from the last meeting.
Okay, so that will be our final action. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes as presented? And that needs to be from a committee member?
Yes, so moved. Motion to accept the minutes from our last meeting.
Teresa, thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
That's Carol. Thank you. So I'm going to call the roll. Teresa?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
Jane? Unmute Jane. Jane, I can hear you. Do you approve?
Sorry, yes.
Thank you. Patricia Roberts.
Yes.
Zora.
Yes.
And I say yes. It's unanimous. Thank you, Mealy, to bringing that to our attention. So now we need a motion to adjourn. Patricia Roberts moved, we adjourned, it sounded like?
Yes.
Thank you. And Jane?
Yes.
You can second it. Okay. Teresa?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
Jane?
Yes.
Patricia Roberts?
Yes.
Zora?
Yes.
Thank you. And I vote yes. So we are adjourned. Thank you very much for all your attention. I think we really accomplished a lot. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you, Mealy. Thank you, Sandy. It's great. And we'll see you. Everybody do the survey again. Mealy, you have anything to add?
Well, thank you so much, everyone, for coming. And we went a little bit over, but there was a lot of valuable feedback tonight. So we'll take that feedback and please spread the word about the survey. And we'll reconvene again in October. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.